Joining us now is Scott Schober, President and CEO of the cybersecurity firm BVS. Scott, thanks so much for joining us. It's good to have you on set today. So let's start with a really basic question here. How easily can Bitcoin be hacked? And the reason I want to start with that, I think there's so much confusion around this because we heard a few years ago about the exchange Mt. Gox being hacked and essentially a bunch of Bitcoin being stolen. And even last week we heard of NiceHash and essentially they're missing tens of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin on an exchange there.
Yeah, well, Bitcoin in itself is not necessarily easy to hack. Neither is cryptocurrency, for that matter. It's really the ecosystem, if we think about it. So digital wallets and apps and all these other things that are used with cryptocurrencies, that's where the vulnerabilities are. So often when hackers are targeting, they're going for the low-hung fruit, the easy hack, which is usually what? It's people, innocence, passwords, those type of things is what they're really trying to compromise. That's where the vulnerabilities are. So that ecosystem really needs to be strengthened for people to widespread accept and trust in cryptocurrency such as Bitcoin, although the price of Bitcoin keeps soaring and it's growing every day, and I think the speculation of it is what's really getting a lot of the attention for people.
The SEC, of course, this morning coming out and warning if it looks too good to be true, then it just might be. How do you tell the difference?
That's a tough one there. Am I buying Bitcoin and using Bitcoin? No, just for that fact there. It looks too good to be true. You could buy a risky stock and get that same feeling, that roller coaster ride. So it's much smarter to kind of wait it out, let things settle, and get a real pulse and sense for what is secure and what's not secure from Bitcoin.
So, you know, we were tweeting about Bitcoin. It was last week because we do a weekly cryptocurrency show. And someone got in touch with me on Twitter and asked about, is the rise in popularity of Bitcoin at all related to ransomware and how hackers are taking over computers, taking over systems, and then demanding payment in ransomware? I don't think that the rise of interest, I think it's a lot of speculation, like you said, but why do people who do ransomware, hackers who do ransomware and do ransomware attacks, prefer payment in Bitcoin?
It's a great question. A couple reasons. First of all, it's decentralized. So there's no bank, there's no middleman in between it, which makes it nice for hackers so you're not easily caught. And the other thing is Bitcoin, it allows people to remain anonymous. That's really important. If you're a bad guy, a criminal organization, and you're dealing with hard, cold cash, well, cash can be traceable, credit card can be traceable, wire fraud, all these different things, they can catch the culprits. It's much, much harder for Bitcoin. So that's why they gravitate toward that. And of course, where do they use it? In the dark web. So they could, again, stay anonymous, make it hard to catch them.
How easy is it to fix that?
To fix what? To actually fix?
To make it not so hackable, to do away with issues of fraud, theft.
Hackers go where the dollars are, and again, where the vulnerabilities are. So it's not something you can easily control. They're going to make it secure, and it is actually very secure. It's a very advanced algorithm. There's a ledger. When you get into all the technology of Bitcoin, it's fascinating. I love it, as well as cryptocurrency as a whole. However, its rising value are going to be targeted by hackers. Hackers can hack, and now suddenly the value goes up each week. That's great for them.
Scott, we briefly touched on NiceHash earlier. That was a company that last week reported that $70 million in Bitcoin were lost due to a hacking. How are hackers able to access, and this I think is a digital wallet, how are hackers essentially able to access something like that?
In the case of that, it's actually, they provide computing power, and it's getting popular where you can actually buy computing power so you can perform this complex algorithm and mine Bitcoins. So the compromise in that case was actually on the inside. It was a compromised computer. How does that typically happen? They're still trying to figure it out, investigating it, but weak passwords, inside job, third-party remote access to it. Those are the typical things.
All the classic ways that anything else would be hacked.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, some cryptocurrency people saying too, you know, this cold wallet, the sense of in some ways being technically maybe off the internet. What exactly does that mean?
Yeah, that means so you're not directly plugged into the internet. We know about the Internet of Things and the dangers certainly with wireless and the Internet of Things. It's easy conduit to hack. So now if you have a physical device that's not connected to the internet, like a USB drive, that's encrypted, and they do sell a lot of these different types, hardware and software, that can actually store your private keys, store your Bitcoins, and that way it's not as hackable, much safer.
Oh, the irony of keeping your decentralized cryptocurrency on a USB drive in a safe deposit box at a bank.
Yes, how ironic.
scamming, the scamming that we've seen with Bitcoin right now, is that something that you expect to escalate, to die down in the near future?
Well, my thoughts and predictions, Bitcoin's going to continue to rise until the bubble bursts. When the bubble bursts, people run from it. Hackers going to run just like any other consumer that's speculating. Why would you want to have somebody pay you in Bitcoins when the value is plummeting? So it'll change greatly in the landscape, I think, in 2018 on.
Any predictions on when the bubble might burst? It sounds like you're expecting maybe 2018.
The 20,000 number to me is kind of a fictitious number in many people's heads, just like the market here. Certain numbers or milestones, that's where things happen.
Big round numbers.
Yeah.
All right, Scott, stick with us because we got a few more questions for you. Our next segment, Perspectives on Agility, is sponsored by AT&T Business. AT&T helps your company sense and adapt to change as it happens. We are here with Scott Schober, President and CEO of BVS. Today we're focusing on cybersecurity. So Scott, what are some of the biggest impacts to a company if the system is hacked?
Well, certainly we could see, if we look at all the large compromise that have happened over the past few years, the brand. Once the brand is compromised, you follow that down the pyramid, it affects so many people. Employees, certainly, shareholders are affected, stock prices affected. It takes decades to build that strong brand. It only takes minutes after a compromise to break it all apart. So it could be very detrimental to a company when a hack happens.
How can a company come up with an action plan against security hacks?
Yeah, good point there. What they need to do is think proactively. They need to think ahead, almost anticipating that they're going to be breached. What do most companies do that are secure or relatively secure? Is they do vulnerability assessments, find where the weakness is within their computer networks, within their staff are. They'll also perform penetration tests where they'll actually go in and try to identify where these weaknesses are so they could reinforce them. So if and when they are attacked, they won't be compromised. And that's very important. Spend the money up front, not post-breach and chase it as most big companies are doing.
Well, let's imagine that a company is under attack. What are some of the step-by-step procedures that a company should actually take if it does find itself under attack?
Once they suspect it's under attack, they got to really do some analysis. They got to look at it first and say, what is the scope of this attack? How widespread is this through the network? Because once hackers get in, typically they start on a server or computer network, and they're going to work laterally and try to do as much damage as they can placing their malware. So they got to look at that scope, look at the size, and they got to contain it, and they got to stop it before they get on further and further. And that they got to use employee education, basic common sense things. If they can't handle it inside with their IT team and their own cybersecurity gurus, they got to sub that out and bring the experts in, which most large corporations do.
All right, Scott, we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's Scott Schober. He's president and CEO of the cybersecurity firm BVS.